Hello, 8123 students. Now it's time for us to move into the next module of the course. In this module, we're going to talk about large-scale distance education and to a certain extent instructional technology projects. Now, for this particular module, there is the classic collection of materials, and I think that's pretty clearly labeled. And then there's the newer materials that relate directly to our new textbook, Distance Education, Statewide Institutional and International Applications. All articles, as you'll remember, that have been adapted from the journal Distance Learning, and most written by, not all, but most written by students in this class in previous semesters. So for this module, we're going to be looking at some classic materials, articles and videos, and also some of the newer materials that are listed here in the book. We have two purposes, really. We want to take a look at the growth of these statewide programs. And over the last decade, there has been phenomenal growth in large-scale distance education initiatives, opportunities, if you would. And we also want to compare and contrast how different states approached this phenomena of e-learning or distance education, virtual schooling. And it's important also to remember that why is it so important for the states? Well, in our educational system, education is what some would call a state's right. It's also a state responsibility. Realizing that the federal government has considerable impact and that the local community has the direct responsibility, it is the state that provides the oversight and the direction for education within that state. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to look at the classic materials first. We're going to look at the classic introduction. I hope you've looked at that already. We're going to look at 3 statewide approaches. These are Star Schools projects that were funded by the federal government. Star Schools in opposition to Star Wars about a decade ago. And it's to take a look at those to see what the foundation was, let's say 10 or 12 years ago. One very interesting project is the South Dakota project. We've got a number of materials there from South Dakota. We've looked closely at South Dakota. We will look closely at South Dakota in this course, and we have in other courses. But there's a lot of materials that we have about South Dakota, including some evaluation materials about what happened in South Dakota. The first video here is Governor Janklo's conclave. Governor Janklo was the governor who started the distance education initiatives in South Dakota. Then we'll go to our readings after those classic materials. And these are readings from your textbook. So I hope you all have your copies of this. You will need them in order to complete this section of the course. We're going to revisit the Iowa Communications Network, ICN as it's called. The ICN was one of the 3 statewide networks that we looked at in the videos from about a decade ago. Now we're going to look at it more recently to see what impact the Iowa Communications Network has had. Arguably one of the most sophisticated and technologically advanced distance education networks in any state in the United States. Then we'll look at probably one of the most famous educational initiatives when distance education, as far as distance education is concerned, and that's the Florida Virtual School. Possibly the largest virtual school, but in many respects the standard by which the virtual school, statewide virtual school movement is measured. What South Dakota is to interactive telecommunications and Iowa is to fiber optics, the Florida Virtual School is to the Virtual School Initiative. Then we're going to look at Western Governors, which is really not a statewide initiative, but it is a large-scale initiative because it's a number of governors got together and decided that we want to have a higher education opportunity and some other opportunities where the economy of scale is multiplied if you have more than one state involved. Network Nebraska, a more recent activity is discussed in the next article we'll be reading, the Georgia Virtual School, which is important, and then we'll also visit Alabama and California. So what I'd like you to do as you view the videos and also read the articles is to begin to get an understanding of what's happening, but delve a little deeper and look at the variations, the differences, in addition to the similarities between these large-scale initiatives, and try to determine why California does it this way, Nebraska did it this way, and Iowa did it that way. What were the motivating forces as we delve into these large-scale networks a little closer. Something we'll spend a module we'll spend several weeks on. Another interesting thing is these articles, as I said, were all written, not all, many were written by students in 8123. And as you remember, one of your 2 assignments at the end of the semester is to produce an article for the Distance Learning Journal, which may end up in another edition of this compilation of readings. So these articles will give you a pretty good idea about the scope and breadth of what your assignment will be later in this semester. Anyway, if you have any questions about this, contact me. Have fun with this one. I think you'll learn an awful lot, and I enjoyed putting this compilation together, which is hot off the press. So enjoy, and if you have any questions, contact me.